Hello everyone, and this is Spider-Man, but it's not Spider-Man Edge of Time. This is Spider-Man Web of Shadows Amazing Allies Edition, which is a little bit different than the Web Shadows you're probably thinking of. Web of Shadows. So, ignoring that I just cut out the options menu, right here we have the Power-Up Manager and Skill Manager. You gain power-ups as you complete missions, and you gain skills via experience. But I already have everything equipped that I want equipped.
Underground base? So the volcano and Secret Island weren't available, huh?
Alright, so right now we're in AIM Headquarters. That stands for Advanced Idea Mechanics. And this game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. It's strictly two-dimensional, there's no 3D movement involved. You have a basic punch and kick, and the combat is heavily juggle-focused. You want to get your guys stun-locked and into the air as frequently as possible, because if they actually start hitting back, then you're in deep crap. The game also has some rather entertaining dialogue and dialogue choices. We're going to be seeing some of those, but not for a little while. It'll be a bit, but you'll see them.
Anybody know where a fella can go buy some vibranium?
So, as you probably noticed, you can switch between suits. Each suit has a different moveset and attacks slightly differently, though I wouldn't say, they control extremely differently. They have the same basic juggle combos, but they have specific moves, like the red suit can do a sweep kick and has more focus on less aggressive and more evasive web abilities, while the black suit is obviously more aggressive in focus. You also gain experience for the suits independently, so defeating enemies with the red suit will get you experience for the red suit, and defeating enemies with the black suit will get you experience for the black suit. The dialogue choices also factor into the experience. You get a lot of experience points from dialogue trees in this game, and obviously if you choose to act like a jerk, you get points for the black suit, and if you choose not to act like a jerk, you get points for the red suit. There are also quite a few neutral options, but why would you choose a neutral option?
Wow, is there a sale on yellow polyester?
In case you can't tell by the sound effects, the combat in this game feels really, really good. Your attacks have a lot of weight behind them, despite the graphics not being, so hot.
The inside of my helmet keeps fogging up. It's too hot down here.
In case you're wondering where the Amazing Allies part comes into play, well, you get power-ups that allow you to summon other superheroes, and it clears the screen of enemies. That's not very useful compared to the other power-ups, but, they had to name it something that would get people to purchase it over the regular Web of Shadows. You can't call it Amazing Spider-Man Power-Ups Edition. Amazing Spider-Man Dialogue Trees and Side-Scrolling Platforming Edition. Right now we're going to use spikes, which makes Spikes grow out of his symbiote suit, which means he cannot be harmed by normal enemies, and everything he touches, well, it gets stabbed with spikes. It's very useful. It means you can just run in without thinking too much, because nobody's going to want to touch you because there are spikes growing out of you. Using the power-ups effectively and spreading them out throughout the entire chapter is kind of the whole challenge of the game, because when you do start to get hit, you're kind of screwed, because your health goes down really fast. If this game doesn't really seem appropriate for a console game, that's because it was also a PSP title. I think the PS2 version might just be a port of the PSP version.
Safety harnesses.
I guess they wanted to release it on the PS2 because the PS2 was the most popular home console in the 6th generation. Wow, I got pounded. Alright, Vampiric Drain lets you gain health back as you hit enemies. You don't gain a lot of health back, but, it's better than just not healing yourself at all. I think a lot of people were disappointed because they expected this game to have something to do with the other Web of Shadows, but it's still pretty good in its own right. You just have to go into it knowing what it is. It's not a free-roaming game like the PS3 and 360 versions. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but it's still really fun.
I really shouldn't be fighting this soon after lunch.
And despite it being made on a considerably lower budget, I do believe it still goes to an 8 to 10 hour game length. If there's a few noticeable flaws in this game, one of them would be that the enemies have a whole lot of invincibility frames. We're going to use one of Spider-Man's screen clearing attacks right here. There we go. But the enemies tend to have a lot of invincibility frames. You can't really hit them while they're down unless you use special moves, but, you know, that's not really a complaint. But enemies, while they're running at you, they can't be harmed. They have to be standing still to be harmed, and while they stand still a lot, it's still very weird that the game is designed that way. And it's not like the game has poor design in general or anything, you know. There are reasons to use both suits and all the abilities you have, and the power-ups are very useful, and there are many situations where they're necessary, so, you know, it feels challenging, it feels fun. It's just, the whole invincibility frames thing is rather weird, I think. The only other real complaint I have about this game is that there is no actual ending. You make this big dramatic choice at the end of the game, but nothing happens. It just boots you back to the main screen. And considering how nice the writing is, you know, it's mostly humor focused, but considering how nice the writing is in the rest of the game, that was incredibly weird. The game, you know, as I said, is clearly considerably lower in budget, but they made it work. They found a way to make the game engaging, entertaining, and, you know, worth your time, even though it is a considerably low budget game. You know, instead of having big cutscenes, having the player interact with what would otherwise be a fairly standard text-based story, yeah, that's a very good decision. It's just all the little pieces coming together to make it better than it would be if there were just a few of them. Everything's nice enough on its own, but it's the combination of all of them together that make the entire game worthwhile. We don't want to go down there because there are fans down there that will chop us to pieces. I almost forgot that. The game takes you to a lot of places also. The entire game does not take place in AIM headquarters, obviously. It takes you all over New York, and to a lot of places that a lot of fans of Spider-Man would probably recognize. This room right here is a big vertical corridor, and it's very hard for me. I have a very hard time going through this area.
Work overtime.
Ideally, you can zip right past most of the enemies, but they can also just snipe you out of the air, which, you know, ends up being more detrimental than just fighting them. Like that. And I die in here a lot, so we're just going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit.
There's no shame in running away.
So up here we're going to get one of the dialogue trees at this stage, though it's not one of the more meaningful ones. All of the choices for this particular interaction are just entirely humor-focused, save for the last one. So anything you say to him really won't affect your points. It's still entertaining to read, though, so there's that. This guy seems nice enough, you know. There's no reason we shouldn't be nice back. If we're making puns, we might as well make good puns. Positive puns. Give him some encouragement. Or we could threaten him a little bit. Let's go with that. There's an alarm going on in the background that doesn't sound very good. We should probably speed this up. Yeah, you know, there's no reason to be a jerk to this guy. He's pretty nice, and, you know, we want him to be successful in his career as a botanist.
I wanted to get into Hydra, but couldn't pass the background check.
Failing a background check to get into a terrorist organization is actually pretty impressive, I'd say. We're going to just completely cheap out on this mini-boss and use our invincibility power-up, because I don't feel like dealing with that.
I'm invincible!
Also, it's just extremely satisfying for once to be able to hit something without any consequences. The combat in this game feels so good. So we could head upwards, which is where that cutscene just showed us our destination is, or we could head downwards for some optional dialogue trees. And of course we're going to do that. You know, I'm sure there are other AIM workers here we could chat with. Well, see, we can't be mad at this guy. He was helping us, and he pulled a hammy playing squash, which hurts. You know, let's not be a jerk to him. AIM workers are people too. You know, they may be evil people, but they're still people. And hammies hurt. They hurt. So you can lift up and carry people who need your help. Sometimes you have to platform while carrying them, but this is not one of those cases. You just need to grab him and take him to the elevator. Wait a second, I thought he needed us to carry him. That's nonsense. We should go beat him up right now, but we can't. The recording broke there for a second, but things are fine now, so let's go talk to that other AIM worker. Okay, what is this? No, we're not buying this a second time. Alright, there's no way there was an AIM-wide squash tourney. There's no way.
There's no shame in running away.
Sadly, we can't hit him. We can't teach this man a lesson about lying to Spider-Man. It won't let us. And that's about it for our look at Spider-Man Amazing Allies. I feel confident that I showed you most of the good things about this game. You know, not all of them, but enough. If you liked what you saw here, you'll probably like the rest of the game.
I really shouldn't be fighting this soon after lunch.
I really, really love that voice clip. Whoever recorded that voice clip, I love them. They are a wonderful voice actor.
I need backup over here.
That's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to smash into each other. I think you saw that before. Oh well. Oh well.
This may be the shabbiest underground base I've ever seen.